Hello again. I am Ian, the systems designer for Downbelow RPG.
And I'm Steve, the main setting guy.
So, I'm about to be asked a question.
And hopefully he's going to have an answer in 5 minutes or less.
I promise a reply.
Alright, so here's the question. Last time, when you were speaking for 5 minutes, we were talking about possible combinations and ways to scratch itches of people who like synergy.
Yep.
In Downbelow, one of the core system conceits is that a success is a success.
Yes.
Any skill can be used for success with appropriate...
when the GM thinks it works.
Well, and also with appropriate consequences is the word I was going for. However, you hinted that there was a possibility that at certain times, having the right skill in the right circumstance could add more.
Absolutely.
What are 5 concrete examples of having the right skill in the right place, unlocking hidden content, if you will?
Well, I might not answer in the 5 examples format, but I'll try. First, let me lay a quick groundwork. There are 2 types of RPG system out there. There are basically 2 things that success means in RPGs. Thing 1, it might mean a simulation success. This is where your number on whatever system that you're using represents something in a physical world. So, for example, your strength score in Dungeons & Dragons represents a specific amount of weight that you can lift, in addition to adding to attack rolls and damage rolls and stuff. And so there is a correlation between being able to lift 500 pounds above your head and hitting for +5 damage. So that's a simulationist sort of success or failure, because you can tell that that 20 difficulty on a strength check means that you have to be able to shove as hard as somebody who can lift so much above their head. Now, in the context of Downbelow, we are using the other kind of success, which is narrative. A narrative success says, if you succeed, you achieve the thing that your character wanted to do at this time in the story, that you, the player, wanted your character to accomplish. And that is why some successes are more equal than others in this system. So, getting into specific examples. Here is example 1. You are attempting to get through a door. This door is between you and a thing that you want inside. Let's say you're trying to get someone out of this building. Alright? So, this building is locked down and has security guards. If you try to force your way through the door, you're going to set off an alarm, and so you're going to then have to deal with security guards coming after you, trying to apprehend you, and then you're probably going to have to deal with another locked door when you get to the room that the person is. Whether it's a jail or an apartment building, there's probably going to be at least one more locked door between you and them. So if you use force, you're probably going to have to get through several different challenges using force in this particular situation.
In other words, you've accomplished your goal of getting through the door, but not your goal of getting the person out safely.
If you address this situation from the person angle, and you are able to find that person's contact information, and then convince that person to come to you if they're not actually locked out in a jail cell, or if they are locked in a jail cell, find the person who could bring that person to you, and then convince them to bring that person to you, then, ta-da, you've used only 2 successes instead of a string of potentially dozens, depending on how locked down this area is. You've at least reduced the number of times you needed to succeed by 1, and possibly by half a dozen.
So in other words, sometimes what you're saying is the trick to having the right skill at the right time is that you can minimize the number of successes you need to spend to get your desired result.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the situation and how many different challenging things you might face. So, another good example, and I'm only going to give one other good example because this is actually a situation where explaining each example is really important. Another good example is, let's take a more nebulous task, like you are trying to become famous. That's a pretty nebulous task. So you could do this in several different ways, and how many times you would have to succeed at something is really widely dependent, and you could even become famous if you don't mind having some infamy with your fame by failing at something extremely publicly. So here is where your character's current situation and the skills you have available, you really have to pay attention to the combination of these things. So let's say that your character is a performer. All right? You want to get famous for performing. This means that you need to find the most effective way to perform for the largest audience. And maybe you do this by finding every gig you can and performing every gig you can, but that's going to be the slow route to fame. The fast route to fame, which might not be the good route to fame because it might put you in contact, and in the context of the Downbelow RPG, is probably going to put you in contact with extremely unsavory characters, but you find someone who can connect you with somebody who's already famous, who has a choice show that you could get on and you could skyrocket to stardom. Of course, there's probably going to be a price, but you could go through a very small number of tasks to get to your goal if you choose the most effective route. But that, and the final note that I'll make on this, does bring in the other thing that GMs should use to twist the situation, to make sure that things stay interesting and not just players get everything they want, because that would make for a boring story, is whenever you do something that's more efficient, it's also probably going to have side effects, which are not necessarily drawbacks, but the players will probably see them that way.
And we are beyond out of time for today, so if you liked this, please let us know in the comments below so we can talk more about this. Until then, this has been Steve.
And I'm Ian.
Signing out.